It's a numbers game, live from Las Vegas, Nevada, only on the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Now, live from the VSiN studios, it's your host, Gill Alexander.
NFL betting season here, of course, and VSiN responding with more programming when you want it. 7 a.m. Eastern, Follow the Money, 3 hours with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard, followed by this here program, a numbers game with me, Gill Alexander. Hey, that's me. That's at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. If you can't get enough of Mitch and Paulie, they will rerun after this show at the top of the hour. Follow the Money at 9 a.m. Pacific or lunchtime on the East Coast. Then it's The Edge with Matt Humans and Jonathan Von Tobel, 3 p.m. Eastern. And then at their usual time, My Guys in the Desert with Brent Musburger, Vinny Maliulo, Ron Flatter, and their revolving cast of odds makers and pro bettors. We got you covered. The only 24/7 sportsbook in town right here at the South Point. Bright and early, 7 Eastern. That's how we start each and every weekday on Sirius XM Channel 204 and online at vsin.com. Off air, Bill, you told me that the podcast that you and I did, the Beating the Book podcast that we did, I guess about 3 years ago now, a famous Hall of Fame NFL quarterback listened to us?
Yes. When I did the last episode that I did at Sports Center with Kenny Mayne, Joe Montana texted him and said, "Hey, I got to get that big guy's picks. I got to get that was pretty good." So he actually, I found out after, he actually went back and listened to our podcast that we've done.
Me and you.
Me and you. And, you know, a lot of people have listened to that. I have to listen to it again.
Such a great episode.
You had about 50 tweets. Is that what that's called, tweets?
Tweets,
okay.
yes, sir.
Tweets. I'm not really, but I do have Twitter now, but I mean,
yes.
at Bill Krackomberger with a K. But so it's about, you had like 50 tweets about it made a good morning drive. So I'm going to have to listen to that. Yeah. And yeah, it's good to know like a guy like Joe Montana is listening to us and checking us out.
You're good radio, man. You're
cool.
entertaining. You were great on that podcast. All right, Warren Sharp, Bill Krackomberger, the Crack Man. We're going to do this rapid fire now. Warren, from a unit-by-unit mismatch standpoint, which is the game or which is the in-game unit-by-unit thing that stands out to you here on the slate week one?
Well, one of the things that stands out to me is this Houston-Jacksonville game. You know, a lot of people are missing the fact that Houston's going to be without their left tackle, Dwayne Brown, in this game. And both of these defenses ranked in the top 5 of early down success rate. And on the other side of the board, of course, you got Blake Bortles, so much negative publicity surrounding him. And this Houston defense obviously is going to be jacked up behind J.J. Watt. It's not that I like the under necessarily in this game, but I do think that it's going to be very difficult for these offenses to go up against, the offensive lines versus those defensive lines. I think that's going to be a definite mismatch. We really have not seen yet the combination for several games in a row of Clowney next to Watt along that defensive line, and you factor in Merciless there as well. So it's one of the few times that we are going to see these guys at full strength, and that should be really interesting for that offensive and defensive line matchup on both sides of the ball. Nice edges for the defenses there.
Yeah, that young Jacksonville defense, will this be the year that they gel? Total in that game down to 39.5. Jacksonville at Houston with the Texans as 5.5-point favorites again on Sunday morning. All right, guys, final 2 questions. I repurposed these from the Beating the Book Megapod that I ask each and every week, but they apply here as well. Which is the big favorite on the board? And we'll define big favorite by, well, in this case, on this slate, let's say 6 points or more. So New England, call it 8.5-point consensus favorites right now across the board, hosting the Chiefs tonight. Buffalo, 8.5 or 9-point favorites at home against the Jets on Sunday morning. Atlanta, 6.5 or 7-point favorites on the road at Chicago. Just mentioned Houston. I'll toss them in at 5.5 points, hosting the Jaguars. Of those games, there's a couple more. Pittsburgh, 9-point favorites at Cleveland. Don't want to leave them out. And those are the biggest spreads. Of those big spread games, which is the big favorite most likely to lose outright, in your opinion, Bill?
You hit on it, actually. It's something I didn't talk about. I think Jacksonville can beat Houston. So that's I'm not going to really bet a lot of money. There's a couple sixes in town, by the way, which I'm sure might change now. But yeah, I think Jacksonville. I think Bortles can do something there. From what I'm friends with someone that actually knows him and talked to him, and I think that could be a good. They're playing really well. I think for what they're supposed to be.
Yep.
People, Jacksonville. They say, oh God, they think about them, and they have a lot. They're catching a lot of points this week.
Sharp bettors perennially loving the Jaguars. Maybe this is the year where they exceed their season win total. Warren, same question.
To give a different answer, because I do like Crack's answer there. I'm going to go ahead and say the Chicago Bears against the Falcons. I think a lot of people underestimate how good the Chicago Bears offense was last year overall. And this defense suffered a ton of injuries. Offensively, though, they actually weren't that bad as a lot of people imagine them to be. And they do have, I mean, of course, the Atlanta offense, high-powered, super strength offense, but there could be some opportunities if the Chicago Bears don't lose the turnover battle. Maybe if they get some good field positioning. I really do think that the Chicago Bears could keep this one close. And if I want to, give a little bit of analysis that's different from what Crack just gave on the Jaguars, I'll go ahead and throw out the Chicago Bears.
I like that call. All right, final question, guys. 20 seconds or less. Of all of the games on the Week 1 slate, Thursday night, Sunday, Monday night, the doubleheader, which is the game that, if we're just talking from a sides perspective, Warren, which is the one that you would want no part of from a side perspective?
Personally, it's the Monday night, the first game, New Orleans and Minnesota. Really don't know what we're going to get from this New Orleans defense this year. I'm pretty down on them. The Minnesota offense, I'm higher on them. But I want to see that they looked a little bit off kilter. The Minnesota Vikings offense didn't look particularly on track, and their defense didn't look particularly on track. And I think we really need to study how they're going to use Adrian Peterson in the run game in New Orleans. So I'm probably going to just be watching that game and studying it, but not having any action on it.
Minnesota 3-point favorites juiced on Monday night. Same question, 10 seconds.
Green Bay, Seattle. Opened up 3, still is 3. Tough game. Should be the primetime game. Should be the TV game.
Should be.
Yeah.
The marquee matchup of the week, no question, Sunday afternoon. Green Bay, 3-point favorites at home against the Seahawks. Thank you to Evan Silva from Rotoworld, senior editor over there, who was on with us earlier. Thank you to Warren Sharp from Sharp Football Stats, Sharp Football Analysis, and professional bettor, the crack man, Bill Krackomberger, in studio, the trio, each and every Thursday, second hour on a numbers game, every Thursday this year for the NFL. Mitch and Paulie next would follow the money at VSiN.
This is a numbers game with Gill Alexander on Sirius XM 204.